Effect dead.
And it is that time again for the Tile Happy Hour. Welcome to the show. It is a great time out there in the industry, no matter where you are in the world. We love tile and the tile industry and what is happening now. So we want you to relax a little bit, have a good time, and let's get together today to have a brief conversation, or maybe a little longer than that, about something exciting in the tile industry. And I don't ever do that alone. I always do that with my buddy, John Tedesco. John, how are you?
Doing great. Yes, you like to spread the blame out. If it's a really bad show, it's not all your fault. So I get
exactly.
it. I understand that.
Absolutely. I can't take full credit for this. If I can't blame it on you, John, I'm going to blame it on the internet. I'm going to blame it on big media, whatever.
Blame it on sunspots or the way the moon and the stars are aligned.
Sun flares.
Yeah, sun flares. That's what I was thinking. Well, we had a great topic last week and we have a great topic this week. This is the Tile Happy Hour. Craig and I have been doing this for a long time. We love to talk about tile, stone, glass, LVT, industry-related items, things completely irrelevant to me, you, or anyone else. But that's what we're here for. But if you are here, and let's preface something, so, Craig. You said it's exciting. Now, it's not exciting for everybody, but if you're ready at the show, watching this, and you're 28 seconds in, and you're still here, possibly, you may like tile, and we got something that you want to know about. So that's why we're here. And Craig, what do you think about technology integrating with the tile industry? Meaning, do you feel like AI is going to be part of the tile industry in depth? And that's not today's topic, but it's just on my mind. Do you feel it's going to infiltrate?
I don't know that it's going to infiltrate the actual product. I think it's going to infiltrate how we go to market and how we write and do things. I mean, most of us are using AI every day without even knowing it, or some of us are intentionally using it. I use it every day for things that I do, creating content and designing things. So I think on that side of the market, yes. I think on the product side, you got to look at tile. Tile's been around for, thousands of years. I mean, Moses was a little baby, and he was probably installing tile. So, and as far as the material goes,
God was a carpenter and Moses was a tile layer. I hear that's
I think so. I mean, that mud and stuff. I mean, so you got to look at that. Yes, the technology has changed, but it's not been exponential. I mean, you think of when, just 30 years ago when I was getting out of high school and you were just at 50 probably. And the internet was new. I mean, there was dial-up. And now look at where we are. I mean, everybody's on the internet all day, every day. So that was an exponential change. And I just don't see our product changing that much. But I think AI is going to change the market and the industry, and it's going to change our world.
Have you seen those videos where a robot was applying spackle on a wall in a room?
No, but I have seen the videos where there's a robot building a house out of just mortar.
Oh, wow. Kind of like a digital printer on feet.
Yep.
Sort of,
exactly.
Right?
I mean, our good friends over at Latacrete are some of the innovators in that technology.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty cool. Yeah,
that's wild stuff. So if this was a Joe Rogan show, we'd say, hey, can we get that video? Can you put that video up?
yeah. I'm not that quick. I do have several screens around me, but I'm not that quick. But speaking of technology, we're going to drop it back to the beginning. I mean, people have been walking on stone and stone mosaics forever. And that's our kind of the big part of our topic today is stone mosaics. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about design and how to use them, but we've got one thing we're going to focus on.
Well, I'm going to propose something here and kind of set the table.
Okay.
The topic we're going to talk about surrounds mosaics, And it's a problem that only exists in modern day, did not exist
Oh.
in the good old days.
So that's like cliffhanger. So
Yeah.
we'll reveal why closer towards the end of the show.
Yeah. So if you're still with us and you needed one more thing to stay, like just about to hit click.
Why we're stone? Let me paraphrase the question. Why were stone mosaics easier, and I'm not going to say better, but maybe easier to install and more pleasing to look at?
Yeah. Well, why it didn't have the problem that we're going to talk about. So today's topic is very specific to mosaics, and
Right.
we all love mosaics. Mosaics been around forever. And how would you define mosaic, Craig, or how does the industry define mosaic?
Let me tell you how I define mosaic. When I think of a mosaic tile, I think of a sheet of tile, and most of the time they're roughly 12 inches, 11 inches, 12 inches by 12 inches. That varies a little bit, and that's not important. But it is a nylon sheet that has chips of stone or tile that are mounted to the sheet so that you can install a square foot at a time and not have to do it one piece at a time. So that's kind of my rough definition of what a mosaic is.
Interesting. So, and I have the same definition, but for the purpose of our topic today, I wonder if the word mosaic existed back in the day when they weren't putting it on sheets, because there was no industrial revolution, right? So I think part of the definition of a mosaic, I'm wondering if you could separate the netting from the word mosaic. Like, I feel initially, when Caesar commissioned, a palace and wanted like a mural of his face on the floor, did he say, I want mosaics, or he said, I want a lot of little pieces of tile with my pictures on it?
I would assume he said mosaics. I think I agree with you. I don't think the sheet is maybe part of the definition, but that's kind of what I think of.
Well, it's the modern day, right?
Because I remember when I was doing a renovation of a pool at Duke, and the pool was built completely tile, and it was 3/4. No, I think it was 5/8 by 5/8 porcelain tile,
right?
And it was mounted on a piece of paper, and you still call that mosaics. And I know that all of the lettering that was in that pool deck, which was done in the 1910, but pre-1920, was done one piece at a time. So you still call that, look at that pool and you say that's a mosaic pool. So yeah, I agree with your correction of my definition.
Yeah, interesting. So just to paraphrase, you were saying I was right.
Yeah, yes. To paraphrase, you were right. I was wrong. And you can have me replaced.
All right. We're going to show you a picture. Do we have a picture of? I'm going
to pull up the Tile Bar website, because we know and love Tile Bar. They have plenty of mosaics, but we're going to kind of focus on this one right here, which is just been the topic of conversation internally. For me and my technical team, we've worked on some troubleshooting some things. But first of all, I want John to tell us a little bit about the tile, maybe its intent, the aesthetics of it, the design of it. Give us the salesman pitch for this material.
Well, salesman / technical. So the reason, and we kind of touched on this, when the end result of any mosaic installation is not to make it look like it was sent to you in a sheet. It's meant to look like each tile was set individually, and it literally are little tiles that are put on a sheet, so to make it easier to put down, quicker to put down. And there's a picture showing what one sheet looks like. So here's a finished product, and when you scroll down, you'll see, or scroll over, you'll see there's a picture of a sheet. And originally, when they made, right there. So
there you go. That's better.
So early mosaics, and I don't know what I mean by that, if I meant 1950s or 20s or last week, but
I think you're right. I think you said it before. I'm going to get, man, you're getting all sorts of accolades. I think pre-industrial revolution is a great, probably deciding factor on what changed in this mounting process.
And now when mosaics first came out, the sheets weren't like puzzle shaped; they were just like squared. And then issues came up, and that's what we're going to talk about. and they said, let's make it more interlocking to kind of avoid the issue that we're going to talk about. And there's the end result. Now, if you look on the bottom of that picture, you see in the bottom, Craig, the little extra grout. Yeah, actually, when you pull it back, it's better. Not even a close up. So if you look at that picture, the bottom of it, the right dead center, there's a little extra grout there, and I could almost see the problem we're talking about showing up. But this was done at a warehouse in a photography studio just to create these panels. So that's not a real installation. But when you get to a real installation, it can become a problem if you see each sheet. You don't want to look at this and see, oh, every 12 inches is where a sheet started, where a sheet ended. And there's a word for that. And Craig's going to explain it while I get my laptop here, and my studio is running out of juice, and somehow the power is disconnected. And I'm going to do that while you explain it. So hang in there. I don't want to lose my connection here.
Yeah, sure. So what is created on the screen right now, like John was saying, is a studio board. So this is meant to represent for sales. Can you duplicate that in the field? Absolutely. Is it as easy as putting down a 12 by 12 tile or a square sheet? You know, these sheets are irregular edges. But if you go to kind of the traditional porcelain tiles, they were, I'm just thinking of something that you would see in your everyday locker room, you know, a 2-inch by 2-inch square tile on a sheet. It's square. These are made intentionally irregular so that they can kind of sawtooth in or mesh into each other. Knowing all of that, you have to understand that because stone is irregular, the process is done largely still by hand. They're not going to fit together exactly. They're not going to fit together perfectly. I brought this, and we're on slide 2 here, but if you look at kind of what I called a problem here, this problem is what we say in the industry or on my team, the picture frame effect. And what the picture frame effect is the picture frame effect is showing the sheet borders inside the installation. Now, if you look at that and then compare that to this, that's a total different look. And what has happened here and what we're looking at is you're seeing all these larger gaps are the edges of the sheets. And in our original board, our perfect installation, you don't see that. And what has happened is the installer has taken some extra steps to make sure that that board looks consistent and looks uniform. And can you get from this to that? Yes. But one of the keys, and John, I'll let you kind of jump on that, is kind of pre-planning and having a good dry layout. John, tell us about that and how that helps your installation.
Well, the dry layout, as the name indicates, is taking the sheets and laying it without setting material. So you're not under pressure. There's no mess going on.
You're not on the clock yet.
You're not on the clock. Thinset's not mixed. Dry lay it when the thinset is also not mixed. So you really, even though you're not trialing it, time is ticking. So preferably, even before you're starting the job or even ahead of the job, you're going to estimate the job if the material is on the job site, which sometimes it's not, or it's unpacked, which I always condone of, let's not open the boxes like 5 seconds before you're starting to install.
Right. Yeah.
But in reality, that's what happens a lot. So take the sheets, lay it on the floor, and a couple of things you need to check. First, you start putting the sheets together. In this case, it is an interlocking sheet. Many sheets are not interlocking, and that's fine. It's just when you have a pattern like that, it even becomes more important. You can't even not have an interlock in that pattern because there's no straight edge 100%. And those are the ones that actually, it's tricky because if the sheet is not made, perfectly, and none of them are, if it's not made perfectly, you do have to massage it a little when you put the sheet together. Now, the trick, Craig, is not to put 2 sheets together or 4 sheets. Like you have to put 8 sheets together. Whatever. Let's lay a whole bunch out. Yeah. And you need to immediately identify if there's a problem with the material. I would say, I'm just going to make up this number, but 75, 80, 90% of the time, it's not a problem. The material is fine. But once in a while, let's recognize the fact that in any company, in any manufacturing process, and sometimes there's conditions like how it was shipped. If it was shipped on end and it was kind of, the sheet got crunched. And so there's a bunch of things that could happen where you shouldn't even be installing that tile. And if it is a problem, let's talk about it now. Get the designer, the architect, homeowner, building owner, tile supplier on the phone. Say, look, I have a concern. If you're a tile installer, if you're a heart surgeon and you're ready to, do a transplant or something or whatever, and there's something wrong, you just don't proceed and say, well, let's just see what happens. Right. The heart will be better after we grout it. It'll look better. No, it's not that. You have to just, you're an installer. If you're an installer, you're not responsible for the quality of the material, but being a professional, you take responsibility once you start installing that you're accepting the material for any defects that that can be recognized at the point of time, right? If you get an inferior tile and it chips later on and scratches, that's not on you. But if you're going to say the tile is warped or the sheet is crap or it doesn't interlock properly, you need to address it there and then. Yes, the job stops. Yes, you're almost losing money, right, Craig?
Yeah. Now, John, when you're doing your dry layout and you see a sheet maybe that's odd, is it okay to kind of set that to the side and use that as a cut or something?
I'm not sure about your question. Can you rephrase that?
Yeah. So you've got a sheet that maybe is a little bit different than the other sheets. Okay. And my suggestion sometimes is, hey, maybe that's a one-off. Let's sit that to the side and continue with our dry layout.
I see what you're saying. So absolutely. In any tile application, right? If you have a car and there's a little damage on a new car, the door doesn't mean the whole car is bad, right? So if you have a tile that has a little blemish in it or a mosaic that's a little wonky, put it aside. Don't discard it because you could probably use it for cuts. I have found, Craig, that it's either all bad or in the mosaic, like if there's a problem, if there's an inherent problem, it will be pervasive throughout.
What about rotating the sheets? Does that help sometimes?
Well, typically I don't think so. Well, in the interlocking sheet business, sometimes there's only one. You
only may have one way to put it in.
But if it was a another mosaic like a penny round where it's technically, well, maybe that's not a great choice, a 1x1 square mosaic, 1-inch squares, a chip size. Yeah, you rotate them around. Yeah, you can massage it.
Maybe a linear accent or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. But I do feel that if the product was not manufactured properly or using inferior, like sometimes it's not the tile, it's maybe the netting or the glue they use for the netting.
Well, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe the technology is there. Most of the mosaics that I've seen are still hand laid into a sheet, a tin or something by a person.
Yeah.
And so that, I know I make mistakes. You've corrected me twice today. So
exactly. And the show's not over. So
that's right.
I've been to Oceanside Glass Factory, high-end glass manufacturing in Tijuana, super high-end, really nice, high-end quality people. And they're making $30, $40, $50 a square foot or more mosaic sheets. And it's being set by hand. And there's a grid.
Right.
You're taking
you got to put
metal,
it in.
like a metal frame, right? And they're taking the chips and putting it in, and then applying the sheet, either be plastic or paper or whatever.
I don't know if anybody out there listening is friends with our good friend Nathan Merrill. He actually on his channel he makes mosaics, and there's a good time lapse of him making these stone mosaics and putting the sheet on there. So that is a artist doing it, but on a larger scale, this material here is done the same way. There's a sheet, there's a pattern, and somebody's doing it in there. But John, how I think the main thing to understand in what you said is just because you're getting some irregularity, that doesn't mean you have a problem. So let's talk a little bit about how to fix, and we'll talk specifically on this one, and then maybe give some broad
well, yeah, I have some suggestions. I have some input. First place, even though this may seem like a cop out, and it's not the right word, taking the easy road, perhaps on a mosaic, try to get a grout that's not contrasting.
That's a good idea. Grout does, just like we talked about in a previous episode, light makes a difference, but so does grout. Adding contrasting, that's a great tip.
Yeah. So if you have a black mosaic, like this is almost black with a white grout on paper, that's a beautiful look, and vice versa, a white mosaic with black grout. But you're putting a heavy demand on that installer, on the product itself, on the sheet, the installer, the person grouting. So if you're a designer or end user, try to make that grout as dark as to blend as much as possible, if not blend spot on. So, would you agree?
That's a great tip. That's a great tip. And I think as a salesperson, it's all about managing expectations. So my one thing to say, designer, owner, installer, every mosaic, and if there's a range, is going to require some sort of manipulation at install. And so let's talk about this product a little bit. You see here, there's on the screen, there's some gaps between the sheets. And our brains are kind of wonky. When our brains notice patterns, we accentuate them and we can follow them. But the great thing about this, fixing this picture frame on this material specifically, if you remove a couple of the pieces of stone and break up that eye line, it kind of fades into the distance. And I did a little training exercise with our team to talk about that. So when you've got it laid together on your dry layout, you identify some problem stones, maybe stick a piece of tape on them or whatever. And you know that if I can adjust that one stone, the eye line will be broken up and you won't notice the picture frame.
So I do remember those workshops, Craig, and you were doing hands-on, which is really important.
Yeah.
And one of the suggestions that you made was what you just said. So if you have a 12-inch sheet, and so that sheet's going to touch the sheets all around it, either when there's something that looks problematic, or even be preemptive and just say to yourself, on every sheet, if there's 50 chips on there or 20 chips, depending on the size of the chips, you're going to take off at least one or two on every edge touching the next tile, and you're going to open the grout space a little here and a little there, and kind of, so it doesn't create that pattern. And you're right, I didn't think about that, Craig, but I'm sure if you did some kind of technical study with eyesight and some kind of,
some doctor, there's a medical doctor out there that'll confirm my opinion there.
Yeah, your theory is that it will continue, right? If you see something, an imperfection, and it's starting to create a pattern, your eye is going to then kind of make it worse.
It's like when you buy a white Grand Cherokee, nobody else has one, but as soon as you drive it home, there's 30 of them in your neighborhood. It's just, you're noticing the patterns. And sometimes you don't have to cut it off, John. Sometimes you can just use some wedges as you see it there, maybe jam some wedges in there, split the difference to break those patterns out. And that's a great way on this material, and probably some others, that will help you lose those that window pane effect. What's our What's our hashtag today, John? We got to see some pictures from
Oh,
the
okay.
field.
Hashtag is picture framing matters.
Picture framing matters. Tile picture framing or just picture
All right,
framing?
we're gonna start off with tile framing matters. How's that?
Okay, tile framing. And so what you want to see is a maybe somebody did a poor installation, or maybe somebody did a really good installation and you didn't see the picture framing. So we want to see those pictures from you, whether you're watching on Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, snail mail. I don't know how you're getting this. We want you to throw us a picture and hashtag tile framing matters.
Yeah, send us pictures. We have some really good prizes. We had a contest last week, and we had some people send some pictures in, and so yeah, we'd love for you to post a picture, send us a picture. If you want to just post it and say on Instagram and use that hashtag Tile Happy Hour as well. But yeah, send us these pictures because we would love to. Now, Craig, if you're doing that tile and putting 1,000 feet of it down and it's not perfect, we've already established it will never be perfect as long as you determine as a professional installer it's within industry standards. It's something you could work with. Hopefully, you budgeted that it is a mosaic that maybe you need a little more time to put this down. But let's say it was a residential shower floor, 16 square feet, 12 feet, 20 feet, and you had a sheet and same assessment is made. It's acceptable.
Right.
Is there another way you can tackle this? And also, if it is not acceptable, it's definitely a way you can tackle it. But what do you think?
There's a couple of different. There's three ways, and we got and we'll hit these real quick. The one way that can always work, and in a small area, in my opinion, is the best way. If you
send it back.
No. Don't send your tile back. Is removing it all from the sheet and installing it one pebble or tile at a time. Now that may sound like a lot of work, and it is a lot of work, but you got to think of the time you save by trying to force square peg and round hole. You take the pieces off, you trowel out your mortar, and you just put it together. And really, you only have to make a decision when you get to the edges. And those aren't bad. Maybe you cut a pebble or rearrange it so that doesn't work. That really is only feasible in a small area. Another way is if you have some sheets. I love this way. You spread your sheets apart. If you look at that picture on the left-hand side of the screen, you can see the tile framing, hashtag tile framing. You can see it there. And once you grout it, it's going to look even worse. So what I did in this example is I pulled the sheets apart roughly one pebble. And then I just broke apart a sheet and I put those pebbles in to fill in the gap.
That's
the great
gutsy.
It is, but the great thing about that, there is no pattern.
Yeah.
Because you're making it fit. And so you don't have to take them all off the sheet. You're only taking them off the sheet. You're filling it in and making sure it works. I did that on these two. If you look at the top two pictures, and this is kind of one of our flower mosaics, you can see the picture on the left-hand side's got a lot more grout in it than the picture on the right.
Yeah.
It's tighter together, looks like a better installation. This is my favorite way of handling it. Now, unfortunately, if you go back to, you can't do that with this material. So this material, you have to go to the let's pull off a stone and let's adjust.
I think the Cahoon method, as it's known in the industry, is really worth exploring with like pebbles, right? Like river rock, because they're already irregular in size, and you have a little leeway to play. And if you don't spread it out 100% to the right exact spot, you can play around with it. So basically, the Cahoon method is you're installing like 10% of the job loose and the rest of it not loose.
Now it gets to be a little annoying when you get to these micro pebbles. You have to, once again, let's manage expectations, manage our time well. Here, all I did is I just simply this was a scalloped edge mosaic, and it was able to be offset. So when you offset it, it naturally breaks up the eye line in one direction. You still have to deal with the eye line in the other direction, but at least that's only 50% you have
So
to
what
deal
I'm
with.
hearing you say is that if you have a sheet that's oriented in a way where you can brick it, because you know it's a weird term to use bricking in a mosaic of a chip, right? But you're bricking the sheet, and if you make sure that it works technically, because sometimes it just doesn't, like the sheets are only meant to be, you know, corner to corner.
Correct.
But if you can brick it, I love that idea.
That's the easiest idea, and then you only have to deal with the eye line on half of the thing, and you can go to the method where you're removing stones, or go to the method where you can't do that. So you just got to do that.
I've seen a bunch of chat groups on social media, contractors, and there's always a discussion about the pebbles and the river rocks, mosaics. And I have seen comments where guys say, now again, this is residential. They're like, I always take it off the sheet. And they charge accordingly, right? They just charge accordingly. That's the whole thing, where if you're a professional and you go in and price the job out, and if you want to do it where you're doing it loose, just go ahead and price it that way. If the customer balks at your price for whatever reason, you could say, okay, well, part of the job is based on the way I like to do it. And the reason I like to do that, because I know the end result we're going to get. But if you'd like, I could do it, you know, the original way that most people do it. And I could take, you know, a little off the bill, but manage, you said it in the start of the show, manage expectations. It's impossible for me to guarantee.
And you can always, you can always share this episode with them and say, these two brilliant guys on the internet talk about why I have to charge more for this, and just give them the thing. And then we will tell them, and you don't have to. But remember, the hashtag is tile
framing matters. Tile
framing matters.
So memorable, we can't even remember it. So we can't expect anyone else to remember it.
all tile installers and designers and homeowners out there in the wild, take a picture of a mosaic installation, good or bad. Tell us what you think about it. Hashtag it. Tile framing matters. Copy us, send it to us. We love to hear from you. We've been getting great comments and great information from you. And we want to continue building out that community so that we can help you manage your expectations, make more money, or if you're on the receiving side of an installation, that you get the installation that you dreamed of, that you get the installation that you deserve and that you've spent money on. That's our goal.
There's nothing worse than getting, I'll bring it back to River Rock. River Rock is supposed to mean like you're walking to a creek in this beautiful countryside, and you see the part of the river there where there's no water at the moment. And you see all these river rocks like laying across the bed of the river, and it looks so beautiful and aesthetic, and it's like very smooth.
And you don't want to see lines.
You don't want to see grids, right? You don't want to see lines. So the whole purpose of a mosaic river rock, particularly, is you want it to look like very natural, and seeing any type of pattern just kills it. So make sure you get a high quality mosaic because the netting technique matters.
Where do you find high quality mosaics, John?
So let me think. Oh, there's a company called Tile Bar.
That's right.
That has a great amount of product and all super duper quality. So yeah, check out Tile Bar's options. If you're not dealing with Tile Bar for whatever reason, figure that out. But
we'll still help you.
We'll still help you. But yeah, it's really important to do, because there are ways of cheaping out in the manufacturing process, and one of them is the quality control, is the type of netting you're using, is the type of glue you're using to mount the tile, and so that's part of the industry you don't want to cheap out on. So we really do a good job. We've had problems, in general.
Everybody does.
So, and you address them. The most important thing is address them, hopefully before it's installed and grouted, and now it's a problem, a bigger problem. And I was kidding before, but I wasn't kidding before. If you receive a product that you just don't think that it's up to par, maybe send it back and do a regular tile, or maybe you have the wrong installer, but it's not. You're not in a position
make that decision before it's too late to back out. That's,
You know what,
that's the
Craig?
thing.
Because sometimes it's matching. Like sometimes, the installer is your relative and he's going to do the job, and you have to. We have to get something that's a little more forgiving and material wise. So, you don't want to overstate that.
Great topic, John. I loved it. I love it. If you like this topic and more, subscribe, like, all those things. You can find John and I's social. We're our Instagram handles are under us right now, right there. I'm at Tile Nerd Army. John's at John Tedesco. Join the Tile Nerd Army. Follow us for all tile tips. Let us this is your show, so you can design it. Let us know what you have questions about, and
please do. Yeah, send us questions, comments, send us your hashtags, past shows. If you have any questions, even on past shows that you saw, if you're watching this live, if you're watching this as just a clip, then comment, send us a message, say hello, tell us where you're watching from. We'd love to know where you're watching from.
Sure, yeah.
Maybe you guys could win some swag, because we're going to give out some swag for people that comment and particularly include some hashtags. And we have a great topic next week. I can't wait to talk to you guys about it. We're going to keep it a secret though. So Tile Happy Hour every week. Love to talk about tile, stone, glass, LVT, the industry, and all sorts of things in between. So this is John Tedesco, and I like to wish you peace, health, and happiness.
And I want to help. Let's keep learning together as I stumble over my words and tile the world.